Hey everyone, I have felt the need to explore a topic that is most of the time misunderstood, debated, and deeply personal. Uh, that is the relationship between the Bible and the LGBTQ plus identities. Specifically, we will look at how faith and scripture intersect with the experience of gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer people. This is a sensitive subject that requires both respect and open mindedness. In any conversation about faith and LGBTQ plus individuals, we must approach it with empathy, a spirit of inclusivity, and a willingness to engage in honest dialogue. So let's start by looking at the Bible's traditional views on same sex relationships. Many Christians point to a handful of passages in both the Old and New Testaments to argue that the Bible condemns homosexuality. These verses include Leviticus 18:22 and 1 Corinthians 6:9 to 10, which are often cited as clear prohibitions against same-sex acts. However, these interpretations are not as straightforward as they may seem. When we dig into the original languages, culture context, and historical circumstances surrounding these passages, we realize there are significant nuances. For instance, Leviticus 18:22 and Leviticus 20:13 are part of the ancient Hebrew purity codes, which also prohibit a variety of behaviors that most modern Christians do not follow today, such as prohibitions against eating pork or wearing clothes made of two types of fabric. So the context here is specific to an ancient culture, not necessarily universal moral law. Okay, now 1 Corinthians 6:9 to 10 and Romans 1:26 to 27 are often cited in discussions about homosexuality, but the words Paul uses are complex and can be translated in various ways. Some scholars argue that Paul's writings were condemned exploitative relationships, condemning them, such as those involving power imbalances or temple prostitution, rather than loving, consensual same-sex relationships as we understand them today. In light of this, many theologians, scholars, and faith leaders have reassessed these verses and concluded that they do not necessarily condemn same-sex relationships as we know them today. However, in recent years, many faith communities have re-examined their stance on LGBTQ plus inclusion. Various denominations, including some within the United Methodist Church, the Episcopal Church, and the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, also known as ELCA, have taken more inclusive stances affirming the dignity, worth, and equality of LGBTQ plus people. At the same time, there are other communities that continue to interpret the Bible more conservatively, upholding traditional views on marriage and sexuality. These differences of opinion can often lead to tension within faith communities. But regardless of one's stance on LGBTQ plus issues, please note that it is crucial to remember the central message of the Bible: love, compassion, and justice. Jesus' teachings consistently emphasize the importance of loving one another, loving our neighbors as ourselves, loving even our enemies, and showing mercy and grace to those who are marginalized. In the Gospels, Jesus never addresses same-sex relationships directly, but he does advocate for radical inclusion, acceptance, and care for those on the margins of society. The message of Christ is one of unconditional love, not inclusion, guys. In John 13:34 to 35, Jesus gives a new commandment: love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. This love, as described by Jesus, is not conditional or based on adherence to certain rules. It's love that transcends boundaries and embraces the whole humanity. You know, there are some that may be surprised to learn that there are a few stories in the Bible that are interpreted as representations of same-sex relationships or gender fluidity, even though these interpretations are not universally agreed upon. For example, David and Jonathan. 1 Samuel 18-20. The deep bond between David and Jonathan has been interpreted by some scholars as a profound, loving, and possibly romantic relationship. The language in their story, particularly just for reference, in 2 Samuel 1:26, where David mourns Jonathan's death, has led many to suggest that their relationship transcended mere friendship. All right, now the second one is the eunuch in Acts 8. In the book of Acts, we do encounter the story of an Ethiopian eunuch who is an outsider, a person whose gender identity is neither fully male nor female. When Philip baptized the eunuch, it is seen by some as an important affirmation of acceptance for those who may not conform to societal or gender norms. Though these stories are not explicit endorsements of same-sex relationships, guys, they do provide a framework for understanding that love, companionship, and identity are complex and varied. But I will say that regardless of theological beliefs, one of the most important things for the church and broader faith communities is to create spaces where LGBTQ plus individuals feel seen, heard, and loved. Even though it is wrong, it's essential to listen to their stories, understand their struggles, and affirm their worth. Too often, the church has been a source of harm, judgment, and rejection for LGBTQ plus people. And healing that relationship should be a priority. Guys, the reality is that many LGBTQ plus individuals have felt alienated from their faith because of negative messages they've received from religious institutions. This leads to spiritual trauma, disconnection from community, and a sense of rejection by God. The challenge for the church is to reclaim its role as a place of refuge, love, and healing for everyone, regardless of their identity. Guys, it is totally wrong. LGBTQ plus is not necessarily right. But we as the church are supposed to be a place for healing and love. We are supposed to be a place that people can confide in. We shouldn't judge one another based on their religion, their race, their gender, who they see themselves as. In my opinion, we should be accepting the LGBTQ plus, bringing them into the church, even though it's wrong, so that way we can help them and help them to see the truth. Bring them into the church, guys, and accept them, so that way we can help them on their journey to realize that what they're doing is against God and is wrong, and help them on their healing process and their journey to get away from the LGBTQ plus community. We need to have compassion and dialogue, guys. We need to hear them out. Too much of us within the church discriminate and judge people based on their faith, religion, race, color, and gender identity. These people feel unsafe, and for many, they turn to LGBTQ plus because they feel rejected, unsafe, and it's a complete rebellion because they don't feel heard. They feel rejected. They've been rejected in the past. They've been unheard in the past. They've been hurt. They've been abused, molested, raped, whatever, sexually abused, guys. And so, in a rebellion, they turn towards this LGBTQ plus to show that, hey, we can be whoever we want to be and you're not going to control us. So guys, we need to understand this, and we need to see this on a whole. In a Christian perspective, yes, but we need to we need to look at this in different angles and see how we can work these people into the church community, so that way we can help them better themselves, not better themselves in LGBTQ plus, but help them understand themselves in the right way, and help them to begin their journey of healing within the church, so that way they can be transformed by the love of God, so that way they can be baptized within the church, so that way they can end up becoming children after God's own heart, and so that way they can, be on a road to help others like themselves. So, in conclusion, the conversation between the Bible and LGBTQ plus inclusion is far from simple. Trust me, guys. But it is a conversation worth having. While some will continue to hold conservative views based on their interpretation of Scripture, there is a growing movement within many faith communities that emphasizes love, justice, and inclusivity. Ultimately, we are called to love one another, to walk alongside each other in empathy, and to build communities that reflect the compassion and grace that Jesus modeled. Are we doing that, guys? Are we growing in our faith? Are we showing the love of Christ? WWJD, guys, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? Whether or not we agree on every theological point, we can all agree that kindness, respect, and understanding are essential values for fostering healthy relationships and, guys, ultimately bettering our communities.